Chiruca is a brand that's been around for a long time, and it's a brand that's very well known in the mountaineering sector. It's the archetypal climbing boot, wouldn't you say? Chiruca means boots. Chiruca started out in Catalonia in 1914, I think. And the old owners, well, things went badly for them, and they gave up the business. They gave it to another manufacturer in other places, and it didn't work. The brand was abandoned for 15 years until it was taken over by FAL Footwear in '85, if I remember right. Then, from '85 onwards, we stopped using the molds, the ones we got from the old owners. The same molds, the same models as they had in 1940. These are different times, different technologies. We made that kind of model, what was the old-time Chiruca, sailcloth, glue and leather for years on end. But then we changed things, didn't we? We did deals with Gore-Tex and Vibram, and we committed ourselves to new technologies, and we made a comeback in both quality and in design that made Chiruca what it is today.
The basic raw material that we use to make Chiruca footwear is cattle hide leather. The cattle leather that we use in our boots is mainly Spanish, Catalan to be precise. From the best leathers to make good outdoor footwear, they're hides from countries with temperate climates. The first thing you have to do to make a climbing boot is to cut all the pieces of leather and the other internal and external materials that make up the boot. This is done with a process using dies or knives, and then go on to a second stage of creating the product. Sewing, brightening up inside and outside parts. Once the leather has been cut, the next thing is to sew its neck to the Gore-Tex sock. Gore-Tex is the inner lining that makes it waterproof and breathable, and that's what ensures the climatic comfort of our products. Gore-Tex is expanded Teflon, a fabric in which just a little bit, about a square centimeter, say like one of your fingernails, has 1.4 billion pores. So small that a drop of water, however small it is, can't get through inside to your feet. But at the same time, it's big enough for the water vapor coming from the sweat of your feet to exit the boot through the same pores. When the inner lining is in place, the Gore-Tex sock fitted to the boot, the next thing to do is to put the sole onto it. Basically, to put it simply, there are two kinds of sole. One's made of soft materials that are right for trail walking, activities where the foot needs a sole that goes along with it properly in the natural movement of the foot when you walk. They have to be very flexible, light, not heavy at all, and they have to absorb shocks and return the energy to the customer's foot. Our boots, and we are leaders in the Spanish market, are made of polyurethane. But when you start walking across more rugged land with rocks and ridges, the soles of the boots have to include a harder material, one that's not so comfortable. But it means you don't notice any unevenness in the terrain when you're walking across. Basically, I'm talking about stones, the sharp edges of the rocks. That material is rubber. And the best-known brand for the soles of mountain trekking boots is the Italian Vibram. Vibram comes from the name of Vitali Bramani. In the 1930s, he lost his friends in an expedition in the Alps, where we all know the weather can change suddenly. It changes so suddenly and quickly in the mountains that they were caught by a storm on a wall in the Alps between Italy and Switzerland, and on that expedition 6 of his best friends died. When it was all over, he thought that the canvas boots that were used at the time had to be improved, so as to avoid situations like that, so that people can get up and down without slipping. And another friend who wasn't on that expedition was Leopoldo Pirelli, a familiar name for anyone who knows anything about cars. And what they did was to put the technology for making boot soles something that already existed. The materials that were being used for making car tires. Whichever of the two types of sole, walking or climbing, what happens in manufacture, when the boots have been made, is to put them through the finishing section, for them to be labelled, put in boxes and then stored and sent to the shops at the right time for when our customers need them.
Why manufacturing in Spain? After all, in sportswear, now 80% comes from Southeast Asia. But we go a bit against the stream. What do we have going for us? Our own designs, our own production, warehousing, everything that has to do with distribution. And that a product of ours, of course in quality and everything else, is nothing like what comes out of Southeast Asia. We're far above that. The other thing is that we can dispatch one pair or 50 or 500 just the next day. That's one of our great advantages. And then, of course, there's the made in Spain. That's very important. All the boots that leave here, all the footwear from here, comes with quality and a very important guarantee label. Any query is dealt with in the day.
Well, what we do in this laboratory is the quality control, both of the raw materials that are used in the production process and of the finished items. In the quality control of the raw materials, tests are made on the leathers, laces, threads and soles. And in the quality control on the manufacturing process, it's also done on soles. Quality control on the finished product and quality control with tests to separate the glued parts. It's control of the gluing of the leather upper to the sole mainly. And there are other tests on the Gore-Tex to check on the overall waterproofing of the boot.
Chiruca's future, exports, the international market, but especially opening up to new countries where we are already well known. And the home market, of course. Chiruca is an umbrella brand. It can take in different lines, and every day we're managing to do that, to bring up new lines, new ways of developing, and most of all, exports, and made in Spain.